People don't realize it. Well, maybe some of them do, but they're like animals. We weren't created to be animals. We were created to be like angels, the sons and daughters of God, just like Lucifer was, but he became a fallen angel and became a demon, a devil. But in the garden, he brought us down into an animal state. That's why God sewed animal skins to clothe them with. They became like animals. Their nature was a fallen nature, and they started living after the flesh instead of in the spirit, walking and talking with their creator. They had a spiritual mind, an innocent, holy mind, had no evil in them. And they were innocent like little children. They would walk in the garden without any clothes on, and they had no shame because they didn't think evil. They didn't think fleshly. We've become animals as a human race and not angels. One time, I remember somebody made a comment on one of our videos, and they said, what animal spirit are you of? And Arlen told him, he said, I'm not an animal spirit. I'm of God. I'm of the Holy Spirit. And so we didn't hear back from that person, but everybody's saying, like they say, are you, a horse or a dog or whatever, fox or something? Well, like the picture behind me, you can be like a lion or a kitten, but either way, you're still an animal, even if you're look like a little innocent kitten and you're so sweet and you don't have any harm in you, but you still have the nature of a lion in you. You're still a predator. You're still not born again in the spirit. And people don't realize that today. They think they're in the form of God, but they're in a fallen state. They're like their father, the devil, who corrupted us. And until you're born again of the Holy Spirit, really born again of the Holy Spirit, not just claiming scriptures from the Bible, you have a new nature when you get born again, and you don't have a fleshly animal nature anymore. As I go about my daily business, whether I'm going to pick up some groceries or whatever, if I'm driving my car, or if I'm walking or riding the bike, I see people out and about and they look like animals. I mean, it's amazing how fleshly people have become. They become so obese, and then they have clothes on that doesn't cover up anything, and they're just brute beasts, plain animals, and they're perverted. They can't realize that they're not in the design that God made them in. And they love it because they're animals, and they love to be free to do their animal thing. Just like an animal, he'll do anything in front of you. He doesn't have any shame at all. And that's why people like them. And there's nothing wrong with animals in their right environment. People are animals. So, they're dogs, they're animals, they're cats, and everything just are part of their family because they're not wholly spiritual. And like I said, I have nothing against animals, and they should be treated decent. They have a right to live too. But we are not supposed to be animals. We are supposed to be the sons and daughters of God and be spiritual. And an animal will keep your mind in the flesh because they think flesh all the time. All they want is something to eat. They want you to scratch their back. They want you to do what they want to do in the flesh. And that's the way people are today. They're like animals, and they're not like angels. In the days of Noah, it said that God said the imaginations of their hearts were evil continually. The imaginations of their heart, not just their mind, their head, but their heart was evil continually. And they were living after the flesh, eating and drinking and having parties and getting married. And the marriage, it was okay to be married, but they were getting married for fleshly reasons. They wanted concupiscence, and it repented God that he had made them. So he set about to destroy them. And if Noah hadn't found grace in the eyes of the Lord, then the whole human race would have been wiped off the planet. They were living after their animal nature, and it repented God that he made them because the imagination of their heart was evil. It was after the flesh. And that's the way religious people are today. What are they doing? They're lusting after houses and money and fleshly success and cars and airplanes and vacations. And they're no different than those that aren't in religion. So they're just animals living after the animal nature in the flesh. And it's obvious if you look at them. And today they have so many more devices for the flesh. In the garden, when they sinned and they came down into their animal nature, God cursed them. He kicked them out of the garden. He made animal skins for them to wear for clothes. And he told them that you'll earn your bread by the sweat of your brows. But what have they done today? Today, they have made everything convenient for the flesh. And it's destroyed them. They have to go to some kind of an exercise gym or go out jogging to keep from being too fat and to get enough exercise. And they sit in air-conditioned offices and drive air-conditioned cars. And now our food is polluted because big production companies make all our food for us, and they pollute it with all kinds of pesticides and genetically modifying it, and they've polluted the air and the water and everything else. And so you've destroyed yourself by living like animals instead of living the way God created you to live. You're like animals, and they treat you like animals, and they use you like they use animals. And now with Satan's systems, putting people in cities and providing everything for them, he made them dependent on him and his systems. We have to get the needs of our flesh from the devil's system. And he gives people time to play, plenty of money and plenty of things to play. They play, and they don't use up their fleshly energy, earning their bread by the sweat of their brow, so that they can use up all that fleshly lust, and they'll go home and sleep at night and get up again and live more of a wholesome life. Instead, they're out playing all the time, having something fun to do in the flesh, fulfilling the lust of their flesh. And God doesn't like that, because you're dooming yourself with him, because he doesn't like you to lust after the flesh. It's a sin to do the things that you do. And since people have no restraints on the flesh, they're becoming so obese, and they're just becoming farther and farther and farther from the way God designed them to be. It's a horrible world to live in. We have an empty life today. Everything's just for the flesh, and they're never satisfied, because the flesh will not satisfy the soul. You need your creator to satisfy your soul. Fleshly things will never satisfy the soul. You'll never have enough flesh to satisfy your soul. You might have a temporary satisfaction, but then you want more and more and more. And then when you die, your soul is bankrupt and you lose it all. It's a crazy world. But it was prophesied that it would come to this time. You know, even the angel Gabriel told Daniel that in the last days that the knowledge would increase and people would be running to and fro, back and forth. And that's what they're doing today with their invention of the automobile. And in Revelation, I think it's in chapter 11, it said God will destroy them that destroy the earth. Well, they've destroyed the earth. They can't stop it now with the climate change and the pollution, and they're just headed like a snowball for hell now. And so you better get your soul right with God, because this earth is no decent place to live, and your life is short anyway, your temporary flesh life. And you can't claim scriptures to be saved, and you can't claim scriptures to do the will of God, and that you justify everything you do in your life. That's not going to cut it with God. When you stand before the living Jesus Christ for judgment, he's going to look in your heart, and he's going to know if you loved him and you wanted to really do his will, or if you just loved with your mouth saying that you loved him. You were just claiming to love him and to do his will, but in your heart, you never really did love him. You never really came to him. You just wanted him to give you the things you wanted in the flesh, and you didn't care about what he wanted, and you didn't suffer any for the truth and for life in him, and you won't make out good with him at all. So you better get right now.
Well, I heard about a man who saw a light, and one who let his little light shine. It's a city where a lamp its light, and a light's upon soon shall be mine. Well, the lighthouse has been on that hill so long, and light at the river's made me whole. But this light guiding me and has set me free. It's a light shining down in my soul. Did you ever see a light in a soul? A light shining deep in my heart. You can see this light shining in my face. It's the love of God that Jesus did impart. Wise men followed the light through the night, and this light led them to Jesus I am known. And this light guiding me, take me to him, you see, a light shining down in my soul. This light will make your eyes do a twinkle, and this light, it'll make your feet dance about. This light will fill your heart full of joy, and upon your lips will be a holy shout.